Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review for Halloween month for October. Well, back with another rant to say because, well, first of all, number one, I like doing rants. It's fun and uh get to unleash more frustration, right? That's number one. But number two, though, it's like now I'm I I was already doing shit. Now I'm getting more further into the shit. But so the next rant, you should say, which I think is more stupider than the previous movies because you got more stupid dumb characters in this film than the previous ones. Now this is for the 2012 film called ATM. ATM from 2012. It's directed by David Brooks. I think this was his directorial debut. Now the script is written by Chris Sparrow. I think this is the same guy who wrote Buried with Ryan Reynolds, which first of all, I was not a fan of that movie, Buried. I mean, I like Ryan Reynolds though, but I just never liked Buried. I know that film got a lot of critical praise, but to me, I did not like Buried. And keep on clearing my throat here because that's probably doesn't want me to talk about this movie. Probably my throat doesn't want me to talk about because it's trying to incapacitate my voice. But so that's one thing though. I was not the writer with the writer of this film wrote Buried, and I was not a fan of Buried. So the film, okay, for your cast here, you got Brian Geraghty, if I mispronounce his last name. He's the lead guy in this. You got Josh Peck, right there. Josh Peck from Drake and Josh, right there. Yeah. Yeah, Josh Peck from Drake and Josh. But of course, starting other of course, besides outside his Drake and Josh TV show, he starred in other films like The Whackness or the Red Dawn remake. Of course, he voiced one of the possums in the Ice Age movies. But yeah, and then you got Alice Eve right there. Now I know her probably mostly from she was in the second rebooted Star Trek film, Star Trek Into Darkness, with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. Right. Turns out she was the this new doctor on the ship, but it turns out she's the daughter of Peter Wells' character, daughter of the crooked admiral in Star Trek Into Darkness. So yeah, so she's in this. So the film, I just like how these people here, like this person from Screen International, calling it a taut thriller, and over here on the back here it says from the New York Times, generates a taut friction or I think it says Frisian. Oh, whatever. I don't know who these people who are talking about because I don't see no taught nothing. I don't see nothing taught about this movie. All I see is this was a dumb movie with especially with starting with three dumb idiots. That's basically because the three people in this movie are nothing but total belithering idiots. That's who these people are. They're they're just bluntly, yeah, they're dumb as fuck characters. That's who I would say, dumb as fuck characters, belithering dumb as fuck characters. So okay, the film is okay. It's straight to the point. Yeah, these three people here. The lead guy, Brian, Geraghty, he's like a stockbroker, and he kind of feels bad about this person that he like. I guess he vested and he lost the stuff, so he feels bad about it. But at the same time, it's like the play when you do stock. Play the stock market and stuff. You risk things, you lose some. So he kind of feels bad about it. At the same time, he doesn't because that's part of the stock market business. which I don't know jack shit about stock markets. If I were to try to learn stuff about the stock market, I just go rather watch Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. I mean, at least Dan Aykroyd tried to explain to Eddie Murphy how sometimes the stock market works, but it's to me the whole stock market is so complicated with all this stuff like that, so I'll never understand it. Even if I do, even when I did watch Trading Place, I still don't understand it. But then so and I think it's also during the time of Christmas. I think because I think they were at a Christmas party, and so he's going home, but Josh Peck, which he's just like this. Josh Peck is his character in this film is such a pushy little bastard because first of all he's too cheap to call for a taxi. That's number one, because he's like, oh well, even the guy, even the Brian, even I'll just call him Brian, Brian, because he says, why don't you just call a taxi? Well, why don't you just take me home? You wouldn't want to leave your friend behind. I don't mind Josh Peck, but just his character was pushy. I say, yeah, he's a pushy little bastard. That's what he is. Too cheap to he's just too cheap, to pay for to find a call for a taxi and pay for it. Still, and then Alice Eve, I think play was like his It was like I think it was like a first date. I think as he has a hard time talking to her, but she also offers her a ride. So Beverly kind of has the courage to talk to her, warm up to her. And so they're driving, and then Josh Peck, he's hungry because he wants to get something to eat, and he has a stupid line where it says like, "Oh, if I eat this food, the third wheel shenanigans will end," because he thinks he's like the third wheel. That's what he thinks. I'm like, so so he's too cheap to find to pay for a taxi, but he wants to go get food. Well, especially I think it's like 1 a.m. in the morning, very early in the morning, and then they go to this here where basically the setup of the movie. You have this ATM, which is basically it's an ATM booth basically with a small little cubicle building, square building basically. You see one of those. You probably seen one of those where it's an ATM, it's in a small cubicle square building, right? And so instead of being next to like that's attached to a bank, right? It's a separate ATM that's separate from all the banks and its own location. And so because the place he wants to eat at doesn't take cars, so he has to get cash. And this is where the setup of the movie pretty much goes from there. And so, and also one thing, this is stupid because, well, listen, as I said before, it's 1 a.m. in the morning. That's where the time they were leaving, go home, right? And then you look at the time of their clock though, but you check how much degrees the weather is for how many degrees it is outside, because like I said, it's around Christmas time, so it's cold, right? It's a -3 degrees. Let me give you one thing. It's -3 degrees. So, and yet, if it's that freezing cold if it's below zero outside, and yet all these people, even Alice, we're wearing a trench coat though, but our two guys here are nothing wearing but a suit and tie. Do you think a suit and tie would go out there in the freezing cold and the negative freezing cold out there? Even if you're in the car with warm air conditioning inside, it's still not been held for the freezing cold. That's -3 degrees. I mean, come on. John Carpenter's The Thing. They're in the freaking Antarctica, and they're wearing all thick coats and stuff, right? And where it's below zero weather. Towards the end, where Kurt Russell says it's 6 hours, it's going to be almost 100 below in here. For them to freeze to death. That's almost equivalent to this though. And yet they're out there wearing a suit and nothing but a suit and tie, no hats, no gloves, no. Even though Alice is wearing a trench coat right here, but still, come on. The mind boggles. They're just walking out there as if it's like as if it's like maybe at least 50 degrees outside. That's still cold though, but still, come on. It's like they're walking in like if it's like that below zero is like nothing. It's like a regular type of cold, right? Not freezing cold. My mind is blown out. That my mind is blue. I mean, you don't believe me. I mean, just like you look at it, you see, it's like it's 1 a.m. and or not necessarily 1 a.m. I don't know. It was between 1 or 1:15. I forget. But you see, it's like it's -3 degrees. I'm like, you're walking in the freezing cold, where wearing a suit and tie, and you're walking through it like it doesn't even bother you. Like you don't act like you're freezing. So, so while they're there, then there's a killer. Now, like the killer in this movie is wearing a hooded coat, or as people call these type of coats a perka, right? Yeah, that's what they call them, a perka. That's the type of coat with those fuzzy little hoodies on top of them, right? You know, like what they wear in John Carpenter's The Thing, the per coats. So the thing is though, if you want to watch, if I want to watch a killer wearing like that type of coat, right? I just rather watch Urban Legend from the late 90s, or was it no? Because I think it was like 1999. Because I know the sequel was like 2003 or so. Which the first Urban Legend I like. That was like a fun little slasher movie. Because the killer was wearing that basically this type of coat, this type of coat right here. Except the killer had an axe and stuff, right? But I just rather watch Urban Legends, and or speaking with I mentioned John Carpenter's Thing. I really watched. You know damn well that John Carpenter's The Thing is easily better watching this, right? Come on, that's me saying that that's no question to ask about, because nothing can touch on John Carpenter's The Thing, his horror masterpiece. So that should not have been in a question. Or if I just want to watch a movie where it's basically like in a one small isolated place, it's like in the middle of nowhere almost. I'd just rather watch Stephen King's Misery. Where the main character, he's in his one location where he can't escape because he has to fight for his survival against this deranged, crazy fan of his. But especially when he's handicapped and can't move his legs. He's trapped in this one little location, isolated from nowhere. It's even Stephen King. We all know that even though the Stephen King's Misery is easily better than this, easily. Come on, and with a much smarter, uh, smarter of a villain, like in great performance by Kathy Bates. Oh God, I love you. Oh, it's for the best. Yeah, and rest in peace, James Caan. All those movies are Urban Legend. All those ones are better than this movie easily. But if you're talking about like a slasher film, Urban Legend is easily better than this. But anyway, and the thing is, the killer has no weapons. He's not even carrying a gun. Even they mention is like, well, if he had a gun, he would have shot us, right? So the killer has no weapons, even though he has like he has like a tire iron right there. But right now the killer has no weapons on him, no gun or anything. Now, several possibilities. All this could have been avoided. Several possibilities. All this could have been avoided. Okay. First of all, okay, if the guy has no weapons, and it's 3 against 1, 2 guys and a woman. If it's 3 against 1, you could just go out there and easily tackle the guy, pin him down, or if it's just one guy, if he's like for a little bit further away from the building, y'all could just open the door and just take off running, even though it might be in the -3 degree weather. But still, you could just have the since these people can run through freezing weather like it's no problem, could just take off and run away easily. So, several possibilities. All this could have been avoided. But no, they just sit there with a thumbs up their asses, twiddling, what to do. Well, things are why can they use phones? Because one, like said the girl said like her battery's almost dead, and I think, and then or the one guy said his phone died and she left her phone in the purse and which is in the car. And I think it was Josh Peck who's like he left his phone at work, I think it was. So speaking with the phones, let me jump to the scene where he tries to where it was Brian who he tries to go, he runs to the car to get the to retrieve the phone, right? And it's in her purse. Now, why couldn't he just take the purse and run back into the small building with them in it? No, he's just sitting there in the car, fumbling for the phone in the purse, instead of just taking it with him. Hello? No. While the killer's almost been on top of him, then he all of a sudden he just drops the phone and now they got no phone now. This is what I mean. Stupid characters doing stupid things. All these characters they all deserve to die because of their freaking stupidity. I mean, yeah, it's he's just sitting there fumbling through the purse to get the phone instead of taking the freaking fucking purse with him, bringing it back with him. No, he's fumbling for it and then he drops it. Great job writing wise, Chris Sparling. No, it's no wonder why I didn't like Buried. So, but and then that begs the question: how does the killer? How did he first of all how did he plan all this? Because he had to plan on getting the stupidest people. I guess he can't plan on getting smart people, right? No, I think he had to plan. He somehow planned to lure the dumbest people imaginable to his little trap. So how does he plan that? Number one, and number two, how do they know they didn't bring their phone? They don't have their phones on them, so they can call for help. How did he know that? How did he know they would not have any phones on them or any weapons on them? Because the killer would not have known if the three of them might have like like a taser or something or pepper spray in their pockets just in case for self defense. How do you know he would not have any weapons on them, or let alone any phones on them, and let alone how would he know how to lure people into his little trap? Because if it were smart people, they probably wouldn't though. But no, he had to intentionally lure dumb people in this movie to his little trap. So those are questions I'm asking. And so and then later there's this guy I mentioned, like I said, once again the 3-degree weather. I don't know if this time it's 5 degrees because it's like sometime has passed. There's a guy walking his dog at this time in the morning, in 3-degree weather. Walking his dog. Now, like I said, below 0-degree weather. You don't think the dog would freeze to death outside? Or by the time you think with its little paws would basically stick to the icy ground in below 0-degree weather? The guy, if it's 3-degree, if this guy doesn't know it below 0-degree weather, why would you walk a freaking dog out there in freezing weather and know that they think it might freeze to death outside? I don't care if the dog has like a double fur coat or not, okay? You don't go take your dog that time of the morning, let alone in freezing cold weather, whether it's like below 0. And you know what? And then the killer gets him. He dies. You know what? Good. You deserve it because for basically letting your dog freeze to death outside. Then, so I'm good. You deserve it. Stupid, And so, and this is where you get where the guy where Brian searches through the purse, fumbles for it, doesn't take him with him, breaks the phone, and so, and then, and while very convenient, let alone the odds there's a guy walking around wearing the exact same type of coat, exact same type of coat, and the guy just basically had probably wanted to get cash from the ATM, but then but the three people, they jump the guy, beat him, and they kill him. Now, of course the guy in the coat turns out he's a janitor. Why doesn't he say like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you hitting on me? I'm just here to get cash from the ATM." And the guy is basically hard doesn't say anything until it's too late. So they beat him to death, and no, it's the wrong guy. But yeah, but the such coincidence where the guy he's wearing the exact same coat. So yeah, because they think they strangle him. They beat him and then they strangle him. I was like, oh, that's what the so and then get another stupid. Like I said, this film is riddled with stupidity in this movie. I don't know how the guy who wrote Buried, that got a lot of praise, wrote a script like from a film like that, ends up writing a shitty, stupid script like this. Because there's a guy passing by, I think he's like a security guard, I think, and he's waving, and yet the three people. Oh, by the way, at this point, the killer's not around. By the way, before this, the killer is nowhere around, not yet. And so instead of instead of these three, maybe instead of just yelling, "Hey, we need help," or open the door saying, "Hey, we need help," or let alone step outside the building and say, "Hey, we need help. There's somebody after us. Hello." No, they just sit there. They just stand inside the building, just hitting on the window, yeah, 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 and then, and the killer this time now the killer's right behind the guy, and yet they just bang on the window instead of just pointing, say, "Hey, or open the door and pointing, hey, there's somebody behind you." No, they just bang on the window, honky dory, and just, "Hey, hey," and then just they don't, and he kills the guy. Such. I need to take. I had a drink of this because otherwise I was gonna yell out and scream because these are such stupid characters that don't know the ethnicity of having any brain cells to do the smart thing. No, instead of just open the door and yelling, "Hey, there's somebody behind you," or say, "Hey, we need help. Come here." No, no. They just don't walk outside and just shout, "Hey, there's a killer here. Look out behind you," pointing. No. And then this point now, Josh Peck. At this point he's had enough, so he decides to finally make a run for it. But no, but he gets hit by a wire that some of the killer just happens to set up. Which, how he had a chance to set this up before these people arrive, I have no idea. And so, but Josh Peck hits it. The killer stabs him, but he's still alive. And then Brian and Alice, they decide to they run out there to drag him inside. But eventually Josh Peck dies from his wounds, and he dies. And then they get the bright, and then the two are left, and they both get the bright idea to set off the sprinkler system for the fire alarm to go off. Now, one problem with that. Yeah, okay, it's you may say make a desperate move, try to call the authority to get the authorities out here to call for help maybe. But the thing is, you forget, you're below zero weather. And when you have a sprinkler, getting drenched in water in freezing weather, You think first of all you're gonna probably freeze to death much more faster, and let alone die from hypothermia altogether. No, they just. Yeah, I know. You're trying to call for help by setting up by getting the alarm set up. I get it though, but still, you're in below freezing weather, and yet you want to get soaked. You want to get soaked when it's still cold, and you're probably get hyperthermia. Okay, because it's so cold outside, and you have the idea just to drench yourself in this weather, and yet and yet she has the girl host. Brian has the girl Alice hoist up on his shoulders. He slips and she falls and hits her head or breaks her neck, whatever, dies. I'm like, wow, wow. The killer doesn't even kill her. Wow. They like I said, she died from their freaking stupidity. See, like I said, like the guy who died from deserved to die because from his stupidity from walking his dog in the freezing cold, and yet what do you think was gonna happen? What do you think is happening when there's water on the floor and you're holding her up? Oops, whoops, slip and fall. Even the killer does not even kill her, Alice Eve. No, she basically died from the freaking stupidity. Unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. Yes, I am saying more because I'm getting pissed. The more I'm watching this, the more I'm getting pissed off of this movie. If you don't believe me, just watch the movie. You'll see the stupidity for yourself. My God. And then there's a point where the killer blocks the entrance with her car, and then Brian, who's all that's left now, sees what he assumes is the killer sitting in a chair, not moving. The killer he sees a killer sitting in a chair, not moving at all. So he has another bright idea. Somehow he makes a makeshift Molotov cocktail, and he throws it, but the body is not even moving. Oops! It turns out it's the body of the security guard. Oh, so the body was not even moving beforehand, and the body was not even moving when being set on fire, not reacting. Oh, so it was a decoy. And then at this point, the authorities arrive. He gets arrested for the crime, and I think there's a crowd where a lot of people are wearing those type of same hoodies again. Wow, such freaking coincidence. And then the killer slips by them in the crowd. And so he gets arrested. Now, they review the footage. Now, I could say, yeah, okay, maybe the killer somehow he edited the footage, probably so. But the thing is, though, do you think that, the police have, like, crime scene investigators? Do they have people to investigate certain things? When you watch CSI, right? Or whatever with series, right? CSI Miami, New York, whatever. You know how they just investigate every single detail, like reviewing camera footage or anything that's misplaced, right? Don't you think that the authorities will like review the footage, say, hey, maybe this was edited, maybe this little part was changed. Why was this cut? Why was this edited, right? Because if you review the footage, maybe the point where you can see, maybe you get to tell while the guy is not the killer. Because it probably assumed that someone else had to do this while all three of them the whole time were in there the whole time. So suspecting, who could maybe someone may tamper with the footage, but no. So it ends with the killer. He goes back to, I guess he has a secret hiding spot where he plans his next trap at another ATM, probably. Well, you get to be very lucky to get some more dumb people like these three stooges. I know what, screw that, that's insulting to the Three Stooges. I would even say the Three Stooges would be much more smart than these three right here. Using their slapstick antics probably to get out of the situation probably is a lot smarter than these three people are. So I shouldn't say that because that's insulting to the Three Stooges. These three are even worse than Three Stooges. I wouldn't say Moe, Larry, and Curly, or either Shemp, will have the brains to get out of that situation. Because you know them, right? If they see danger, a lot of times, you know what happens? They do? They run away. A lot of times, they was like, whoa! A lot of times, they run away, Which is, yeah, sometimes this is a smart thing to do. Or, they sometimes they plot intricate, if I can say the word right, intricate traps to catch the criminals, right? So I shouldn't say that. That's insulting to them. The Three Stooges will be a lot more smarter to catch this killer, or let alone to have the guts, the brains to run away. Except when it's not in -3 degree weather, though. But these three are even dumber than the Three Stooges. They are. Okay. Going out in -3 degree weather, wearing a suit and tie, I think that's normal. And a person walking his dog in freezing cold probably kill the dog, freeze the dog, which that guy did because of his freaking stupidity. And alone, Alice Eve dies from her own stupidity as well because of the idea to set off a sprinkler and so they slip and who's on the shoulders, slip and fall. Whoops. And they don't. The guy fumbling through the purse instead of taking the purse with him, or the guard when you have the guard instead of open the door and yelling out, "Hey, there's a killer out here! Hey, oh, he's behind you!" Instead of just pointing. No. Or, the guy had no weapons. You could just run up there and tackle the guy because 3 against 1, I'm sure 3 against 1 would have overpowered just the one guy. And the guy did look like he was a big, strong guy either. He just looked like an average person. I'm sure all three of you, with 2 guys, could have easily taken the guy. This movie is just nothing but a pile of dog shit, okay? It's just like, it's so, it's a very, it's more than, it's so idiotic, okay? None of these people don't have any brains whatsoever. Man. Whereas I'm doing this because it's still hot as shit outside right now. Yeah. All these three idiots. Yeah, Josh Peck, Alice Eve, and Brian Geraghty. These three people suck. Not the actors, their characters suck, okay? They were told to do with this shitty script. I'm like, if any of you who are fans of Buried and you think it's a good movie, you tell me how this writer wrote that script. Would you think it's a good movie, Buried? Not to me though, but to you guys. You explain the script of this to me and the stupidity of these characters then. So yeah, this film sucks. This is nothing but a pile of dog shit. That's what it is. Like I said, even I would say the Three Stooges would be much more smarter than these three idiots. They always have the brains to run away, or they always come up with such plans to catch criminals, right? They would probably have the brains, when they always huddle together and come up with a plan, right? I don't know. So, but yeah, ATM. I have no what to say about this film. I'm stopping now. This film sucks, plain and simple. But if you don't believe about the stupidity, please just watch the movie for yourself. If you don't take my word. If you want to take my word for it, go ahead and check it out for yourself, and you'll probably think the same thing. But if you somehow like the movie, okay, I respect your opinion, but I just don't get it though. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. We'll see you next time. Later.